The torchlight flickered, casting long shadows against polished metal. The warriors, they didn't speak. They ate in silence, their faces as cold and unreadable as the weapons around them. Banners fluttered weakly from the wind outside, as if even the air here had a weight to it. A presence. Something ancient and unforgiving. And then there was the smell. A strange mix of roast meat, iron, and dust. It made my stomach twist, not from hunger, but from the realization of how out of place I was. How small I felt in this massive hall filled with men who could crush me without a second thought. You know that feeling when you're somewhere you're not supposed to be, and your body just knows it? Your instincts are screaming at you to turn around, to run, to get the hell out? That's what was happening to me right then. But I couldn't leave. I had a job to do. And more importantly, I had something to prove. My hands, they wouldn't stop shaking. The tray felt like it was made of stone, heavier than anything I'd ever carried. Every step I took seemed to echo louder than the last, bouncing off those stone walls like a drumbeat announcing my presence. I kept telling myself, just get through it. Just set the damn tray down and leave. But then, one of the cups on my tray, it rattled. Almost tipped over. I swear, I could feel every pair of eyes on me. They were watching me, judging me, sizing me up like I was some kind of curiosity, some kind of anomaly that didn't belong in their world. And I tried to act like I didn't notice. But who am I kidding? How could I not? Listen, I need you to understand something. I wasn't always this nervous. I wasn't always this fragile. There was a time when I could walk into any room with my head held high, confident in who I was and what I was doing there. But that was before. Before everything changed. Before I ended up here, in this kingdom, serving men who looked at me like I was less than nothing. The thing about being a servant is that you're supposed to be invisible. You're supposed to blend into the background, to be seen but not noticed, if that makes any sense. You deliver the food, you pour the wine, you clean up the mess, and then you disappear. That's the job. That's what keeps you safe. But something about this place, something about this moment, I couldn't be invisible even if I tried. And then he stood. The Alpha General. I swear. Even the air shifted when he moved. He was massive. Scarred. Silent. Like he carried the weight of 1,000 battles in his bones. His presence filled the room in a way that made everyone else seem smaller, less significant. This wasn't just a warrior. This was a legend. A myth made flesh. But it wasn't his size or scars that got my attention. It was his eyes. They locked onto me, and everything in the hall just froze. Like time itself hit pause. I couldn't breathe. I swear, in that moment, every warrior in that room stopped existing except for him and me. Just him and me. Like the universe had narrowed down to this single point in space and time where nothing else mattered. Have you ever been looked at like that? Like someone is seeing right through you, peeling back every layer, every defense, every mask you've ever worn? It's terrifying. It's exhilarating. It's overwhelming. His eyes weren't just looking at me. They were studying me, analyzing me, searching for something that I didn't even know I had. Why was he staring at me? Was it something I did wrong? Did I deliver the food wrong? Or maybe I didn't bow properly. Gods, what did I do? I tried to pretend I didn't notice. Just keep placing the dishes on the table like it was any other day. Just focus on the task. Don't make eye contact. Don't draw attention. But I could feel it. His gaze was like a brand on my skin, burning through my clothes, through my flesh, straight into my soul. And the more I tried to ignore it, the more his eyes seemed to burn through me. It was suffocating. Like standing too close to a fire that you can't escape from. And all I could think was, what now? What happens next? What does he want from me? You see, the thing about power is that it recognizes itself. Even when you don't know you have it, even when you've spent your entire life trying to hide from it, power calls to power. And I think he saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to that moment, because this is where everything started to unravel. Then I returned with another tray. And that's when I heard it. Whispers. The warriors were talking, but they weren't being quiet. They thought I couldn't hear them, but I could. And they said things like, "She's the one." Is he testing her? Why her? The one? What did that even mean? Why me? My heart was pounding now, my legs shaky. I didn't know if I was going to faint or scream. The whispers grew louder, more urgent, like they were building toward something. Something inevitable. Something I wasn't prepared for. But I didn't get it. I couldn't get it. What was happening to me? Let me ask you something. Have you ever been talked about right in front of you? Like you weren't even there? Like you were just an object, a thing to be discussed and debated, but not a person with feelings and fears and questions? That's what this felt like. They were talking about me, about my fate, about whatever the hell the one meant, and I had no say in it. No voice. No control. I wanted to scream at them. I wanted to demand answers. But my voice was trapped in my throat, strangled by fear and confusion. The whispers continued. Each word felt like a needle pricking my skin, sharp and uncomfortable. Did you see the way he looked at her? The mark, it has to be the mark. But she's just a servant. How is that possible? Mark? What mark? What were they talking about? I glanced down at my hands, but they looked normal. Just pale, shaking hands holding a tray. Nothing special. Nothing unusual. But the way they were talking, you'd think I was glowing or something. And then it happened. A cup, my tray. It slipped. Everything seemed to move in slow motion. The cup teetering on the edge, the liquid inside sloshing dangerously. I reached for it, tried to steady it, but my hands were trembling too much. The cup fell. Just a little at first, and then it tumbled completely. I braced for the crash. For the noise. For the humiliation of everyone watching me fail at the simplest task. But it never came. He moved faster than I could even blink. Impossible speed. One moment, he was sitting at the head of the table, and the next he was right there, his hand catching the cup before it could hit the ground. The liquid barely even rippled. The Alpha General, he caught it. But here's the thing. He didn't even look at the cup. His eyes, they weren't on the cup. They were on my hand. I don't know why I looked down, but when I did, I saw it. That faint, glowing mark, pulsing beneath my skin. It was like veins of light tracing patterns I didn't recognize, patterns that seemed ancient and foreign and terrifyingly beautiful all at once. I couldn't breathe. What was that? I thought it was just a mistake. A trick of the light. I hoped it was a mistake. But it wasn't. The mark grew brighter, more pronounced, as if responding to his proximity. As if his presence was waking something up inside me that had been sleeping for gods know how long. Can you imagine that? Finding out that your body, your very skin, is harboring secrets you didn't know existed? That there's something inside you that's been waiting, dormant, for the right moment to reveal itself? If you're still here, please give me a like, tell me your name, where you're watching from in the comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel as part of your great and wonderful support. Let's continue. I tried to pull my hand away, but I couldn't move. I was frozen, trapped in this moment of revelation that I didn't understand and definitely didn't want. The hall had gone completely silent now. Even the crackling of the torches seemed muted, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. He lifted his gaze, his voice low, almost a whisper, but it carried across the hall like thunder. "There's power in you," he said. "Power that shouldn't exist." Those words, those goddamn words, they hit me like a physical blow, knocking the air out of my lungs. Power? In me? That was impossible. I was nobody. I was nothing. I was just a servant trying to survive in a world that had chewed me up and spit me out more times than I could count. But the way he said it, there was no doubt in his voice. No question. It was a statement of fact, delivered with the kind of certainty that comes from someone who knows things, who sees things that others miss. And just like that, the entire hall erupted into chaos. Warriors jumped to their feet, hands going to their weapons. Voices rose in a cacophony of confusion and alarm. Some were shouting questions, others were issuing orders. The carefully maintained silence of the hall shattered into 1,000 pieces. And I was at the center of it all, still frozen, still staring at this mark on my hand that I didn't understand, didn't ask for, didn't want. And that's when I knew nothing would ever be the same again. Not for me. Not for anyone. But I don't even know if I'm ready for what's coming next. Because here's the thing, when you discover you have power, especially power that shouldn't exist, you become dangerous. You become a threat. You become something that needs to be controlled, or destroyed, or used for someone else's purposes. And I could see it in his eyes. The Alpha General wasn't just stating a fact. He was making a decision. A decision about what to do with me, about what my existence meant for his kingdom, for his warriors, for whatever carefully balanced world he'd built here. The chaos continued around us, but we were still locked in this bubble, this moment where everything hung in the balance. Let me tell you what was going through my mind right then. First, there was denial. This couldn't be happening. This had to be some kind of mistake, some kind of hallucination brought on by stress or exhaustion or fear. Then there was anger. How dare this mark appear now? How dare my body betray me like this, reveal secrets I didn't even know I was keeping? And finally, there was terror. Pure, undiluted terror. Because I knew enough about this world to know that being different was dangerous. Being powerful when you shouldn't be was a death sentence. I wanted to run. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to drop the tray, to turn around, to flee this hall, and never look back. To disappear into the countryside, to change my name, to become someone else, somewhere else, where this mark and this power and this impossible situation couldn't find me. But I couldn't move. My feet were rooted to the spot, as if the stone floor had grown up around them, trapping me in place. The Alpha General finally looked away from my hand, his gaze rising to meet mine. And what I saw in his eyes, it wasn't what I expected. I expected anger, suspicion, maybe even hatred. But what I saw was something else entirely. Something that looked almost like recognition, understanding, as if he'd been waiting for this moment, as if my appearance here wasn't an accident but a fulfillment of something he'd known was coming. "You feel it, don't you?" he said, his voice quieter now, meant only for me even though half the hall was probably straining to hear. The awakening. Awakening? What the hell was he talking about? But even as I thought the question, I knew the answer. Because I did feel it. That mark on my hand wasn't just glowing. It was warm. It was alive. And it was spreading, slowly, carefully, like roots growing through soil, reaching deeper into me with every passing second. I could feel something stirring inside me. Something that had been locked away, buried so deep I didn't even know it existed. And now it was waking up, stretching, testing its boundaries. And it was terrifying. "I don't understand." I finally managed to whisper, my voice barely audible even to my own ears. He studied me for a long moment, and I swear I could see 1,000 calculations running behind his eyes. He was weighing options, considering possibilities, planning several moves ahead like a general on a battlefield. "No," he said finally. "I don't suppose you do." He turned away then, addressing the hall at large. His voice rang out, commanding and absolute. "Clear the hall. Now." There was no hesitation. The warriors moved immediately, filing out in orderly ranks despite the chaos of moments before. Discipline won out over curiosity, though I could see the way they glanced back at me, the way whispers followed them out the door. Within minutes, the great hall was empty except for the two of us. And somehow that was even more terrifying. Now let me tell you something about fear. Real fear. Not the jump scare kind you get from a sudden noise or a spider in your bathtub. Real fear is insidious. It creeps into your bones, settles into your marrow, and makes itself at home. It doesn't just make your heart race. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about yourself and your world. That's what I was feeling right then. The Alpha General circled me slowly, and I fought the urge to turn and run. My training as a servant kicked in, stand still, eyes down, don't make it worse. But everything inside me was screaming. "How long have you had it?" he asked. "Had what?" My voice came out shakier than I wanted. "Don't play games with me, girl. The mark. How long?" I shook my head. I didn't know I had it. I swear, I've never seen it before today. He stopped in front of me, close enough that I could see the intricate scars that crossed his face, each one telling a story of battles fought and survived. Impossible, he said, but there was uncertainty in his voice now. Marks like that don't just appear. They're born with you, carried in your bloodline. He trailed off, and I watched something shift in his expression. A realization dawning. Unless, he said slowly, unless it was suppressed, hidden, locked away by someone who knew what you were and what you could become. My mind reeled. What are you saying? That someone did this to me? Or for you, he corrected. There are ways to bind power, to keep it dormant until a certain time or condition is met. It's rare, dangerous magic. The kind that requires sacrifice. Sacrifice. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implications I didn't want to explore. I thought about my childhood, about the fragments of memory I had from before I became a servant. There were gaps, dark spaces where memories should be, but weren't. I'd always assumed it was trauma, the mind's way of protecting itself from something too painful to remember. But what if it was something else? What if those gaps weren't natural at all? Who were your parents? The general asked. I don't know, I admitted. I've been a servant for as long as I can remember. Before that, it's all fog. He nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something. Of course. They would have made you forget. Made you believe you were ordinary, unremarkable. It's the only way to keep power like yours hidden. Power like mine, I repeated, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. You keep saying that, but you haven't told me what it means. What is this power? What am I? The question hung in the air, and I could see him weighing how much to tell me. How much I could handle. How much he should reveal. You're asking the wrong questions, he said finally. It's not what you are. It's who you were meant to be. That's not an answer. I shot back, surprising myself with the sharpness in my voice. Something flickered in his eyes. Approval? Amusement? It was gone too quickly to tell. No, he agreed. It's not. But it's all you're going to get until we know more. Until we understand why your power is surfacing now, after all these years. He turned away, pacing to the window that overlooked the training grounds below. I could see his reflection in the glass, the way his jaw clenched, the tension in his shoulders. Do you know what happens to people with unauthorized power in this kingdom? He asked, not looking at me. I swallowed hard. They disappear. They die, he corrected bluntly. The king doesn't tolerate threats to his rule. Anyone with power that doesn't come from him, that doesn't serve him, is eliminated. Quickly, quietly, completely. My legs felt weak. Are you going to kill me? The silence that followed my questions seemed to last forever. I watched his reflection, waiting for an answer, barely breathing. No, he said finally. But I should. It would be the smart thing to do. The safe thing. Then why won't you? He turned back to face me, and there was something in his expression I couldn't read. Something complicated and conflicted. Because I've been waiting for you, he said simply. Or someone like you. For a very long time. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is the part where he reveals some grand prophecy, some ancient prediction that I'm supposed to fulfill. Some chosen one nonsense that explains everything neatly and gives me a clear path forward. But life isn't that simple. And this story? It's about to get a whole lot more complicated. There's a war coming, the general continued, his voice low and urgent. Not the kind fought with swords and shields. A war for the very soul of this kingdom. And power like yours could tip the balance. I don't want to tip any balance, I said quickly. I just want to go back to my life, to being invisible and safe and... There is no going back, he cut me off. The moment that mark appeared, the moment I saw it, your old life ended. You can't unsee what's been revealed. You can't unknow what you now know. He was right, and I hated him for it. So, what happens now? I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Now, he said, we train you. We teach you to control this power before it controls you. Before someone else discovers what you are and uses it against us. Us. I echoed. I'm not part of any US. I don't even know you. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. You will, whether you want to or not. He moved toward the door, then paused, looking back at me. There's a chamber below the eastern tower. Be there at midnight. Tell no one where you're going. Trust no one with what you've learned today. Not even the other servants. And if I don't come? I asked, a last desperate grasp at autonomy. His eyes hardened. Then I'll drag you there myself. Because like it or not, you're in this now. And the only way out is through. With that, he was gone, leaving me alone in the great hall with my glowing hand and my racing thoughts and 1,000 questions that had no answers. I stood there for a long time, just staring at the mark on my hand. It had faded somewhat, no longer glowing as brightly, but I could still see it if I looked closely. Intricate patterns that seemed to shift when I wasn't looking directly at them. What was I? Who had I been before my memories disappeared? And most importantly, what did the Alpha General really want from me? Because here's what I'd learned in my years as a servant. Nobody helps you without expecting something in return. Nobody protects you out of the goodness of their heart. There's always an angle, always a price to pay. And I had a feeling that whatever price the General expected me to pay, it was going to be steep. I finally forced myself to move, to leave the hall and return to my duties. The other servants stared at me as I passed, and I knew word had already spread. The whispers followed me through the corridors. Did you hear? The General himself. What could it mean? I kept my head down, my hand hidden in the folds of my skirt, and tried to act like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. That night, as I lay on my thin mattress in the servants' quarters, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the events of the day, examining them from every angle, trying to make sense of the impossible. The mark on my hand pulsed gently, in rhythm with my heartbeat. I traced the patterns with my finger and felt a warmth spread through me. Not unpleasant, exactly, but strange. Foreign. Like my body was becoming something I didn't recognize. Was this what power felt like? This unsettling mixture of potential and danger? I thought about the General's words. About wars and balance, and things I couldn't begin to understand. About training and control, and the threat of being discovered. Part of me wanted to run. To flee into the night and never look back. To find some remote village where no one knew about marks or power or Alpha Generals with too many secrets in their eyes. But another part of me, a part one didn't want to acknowledge, was curious. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just a servant. I wasn't just invisible, unremarkable, ordinary. I was something else. Something that scared powerful men and broke the rules of this carefully ordered world. And as terrifying as that was, it was also intoxicating. I watched the shadows on the ceiling, cast by moonlight filtering through the small window, and made my decision. I would go to the Eastern Tower. I would hear what the General had to say. I would learn what this power meant and where it came from. Not because I wanted to be part of his war. Not because I trusted him or his motives. But because I needed to know. I needed to understand what I was, even if that knowledge destroyed me. The hours crept by with agonizing slowness. I listened to the other servants breathing in their sleep, to the distant sounds of the night watch making their rounds, to the beating of my own heart. And when the tower bells chimed midnight, I slipped from my bed and into the darkness. The Eastern Tower was in the oldest part of the fortress, a place servants rarely went. The stone here was darker, worn smooth by centuries of use. The air felt thicker, heavier, as if the weight of history pressed down on everything. I found the entrance easily enough, a wooden door reinforced with iron, slightly ajar. An invitation. Or a trap. I hesitated, my hand on the door. This was it. The point of no return. Once I walked through this door, I wouldn't be able to pretend any of this was a mistake or a misunderstanding. I would be choosing this path, whatever it led to. But hadn't I already chosen? The moment I looked down at my hand and saw that mark? The moment the General caught that cup and looked at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking for years? I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The chamber beyond was larger than I expected, carved directly into the stone of the tower. Torches lined the walls, casting dancing shadows that made the room seem alive. And in the center, waiting for me, stood the Alpha General. But he wasn't alone. There were 3 others with him, all wearing the marks of high-ranking warriors. They turned as I entered, their eyes assessing me with the same intensity the general had shown in the Great Hall. "You came," the general said. Not surprised exactly, but satisfied. "Did I have a choice?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "There's always a choice," one of the other warriors said, a woman with silver streaks in her dark hair. "The question is whether you're brave enough to make it." I looked at each of them in turn, trying to read their intentions, their allegiances. But their faces were as unreadable as the general's. "What is this?" I asked. "Some kind of tribunal?" "No," the general said. "This is the beginning of your education. These are the only people in this fortress who know the truth about what's coming. The only ones I trust with your secret." "And what is the truth?" I demanded. "You keep talking around it, but no one's actually told me what's happening. What this mark means. What I'm supposed to be." The woman stepped forward. "May I?" she asked the general, who nodded. She approached me slowly, as one might approach a skittish animal. "Give me your hand," she said gently. I hesitated, then extended my hand, palm up. The mark had grown brighter again, responding to the presence of these people, this place. The woman didn't touch me. Instead, she held her own hand above mine, about an inch away. And I watched, stunned, as a similar mark appeared on her palm, glowing with the same ethereal light as mine. "We are the marked," she said softly. "Carriers of the old magic, the power that existed before the kingdoms, before the armies, before the order that rules this world now. We are the last remnants of a time when magic flowed freely through the land." "But magic is forbidden," I said. "Has been for generations." "Forbidden, yes," another warrior said, a grizzled man with a scar across his throat. "But not destroyed. Never destroyed. The king thought he'd eliminated all traces of the old magic when he took power. He hunted down the practitioners, burned the libraries, rewrote the histories. But he couldn't eliminate what lives in the blood." The pieces started to come together in my mind, forming a picture I didn't want to see. "You're rebels," I said. "You're planning to overthrow the king." "We're survivors," the general corrected. "And yes, we're planning to take back what was stolen from our people. But this isn't about power or politics. It's about survival. The king's war on magic isn't over. It's just been waiting for the right moment to resume." He moved closer, his eyes intense. "And that moment is coming.
Soon.
There are rumors he's found a way to detect the marked, to root out anyone who carries even a trace of the old magic. When that happens, when he activates whatever weapon he's created, everyone in this room will die. And countless others like us." I felt the weight of his words settle over me like a shroud. "And you think I can help you stop him?" "Not think," the woman said.
No.
"Your mark is different from ours. Stronger. More pure. It suggests a bloodline we thought was extinct, a power we haven't seen in 200 years. "What bloodline?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know the answer. The general and the woman exchanged glances. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with significance. "We believe you're descended from the last of the sovereign mages. The ones who ruled before the kingdoms, before the wars. The ones who could bend reality itself to their will." The room spun. I had to lean against the wall to keep from falling. "That's impossible," I whispered. "I'm nobody. I'm just a servant." "Yes, we know," the scarred warrior said, not unkindly. "That's what you were made to believe. But look at your mark, girl. Look at what you carry inside you. That's not the mark of a servant." I looked down at my hand, at the glowing patterns that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. And, for the first time, I really saw them. Not just as strange symbols, but as something beautiful, something powerful, something that connected me to a history I'd never known I had. "I don't know how to use it," I admitted. "I don't even know what it does." "That's why you're here," the general said. "We'll teach you. Train you. help you unlock what's been locked away inside you all these years. And in return? I asked because there was always a price. In return, you help us survive. You stand with us when the king makes his move. You use your power to protect those who can't protect themselves. It should have been an easy decision. Join them or die when the king's purge began. Fight or fall. But nothing about this felt simple. How do you know I won't betray you? I asked. How do you know the moment I learn to control this power, I won't go straight to the king and buy my safety with your secrets? The general smiled, a real smile this time, not the ghost of one I'd seen before. Because you're one of us, he said. Whether you accept it or not, the moment that mark appeared, you became part of something bigger than yourself. Your fate is tied to ours now. If we fall, you fall. If we survive, you have a chance. That's not exactly reassuring, I muttered. It's not meant to be, the woman said. This path we're offering you, it's not safe. It's not easy. You'll be hunted, feared, possibly killed. But it's real. It's true. And it's the only path that gives you any control over your own destiny. Control. That word again. As if any of us really had control over anything in this world. But she was right about one thing. This path, dangerous as it was mine to choose. Not chosen for me by circumstance or birth, or the whims of those more powerful than me. Mine. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision settling over me. When do we start? I asked. And that, my friends, is how I went from being invisible to being the most dangerous person in the kingdom. The training began that very night. The woman, whose name I learned was Kestra, took the lead. She explained that magic wasn't something you forced or controlled. It was something you guided, channeled, worked with rather than against. Think of it like a river, she said as we stood in the center of the chamber. You don't stop a river. You don't command it. You redirect it. You work with its natural flow. Easy for her to say. My magic felt less like a river and more like a wild animal pacing inside my chest, looking for a way out. Close your eyes, Kestra instructed. Feel the mark on your hand. Feel where it connects to the rest of you. I did as she said, closing my eyes and focusing on the warmth in my palm. At first, it was just heat, just sensation. But then I felt it, thin threads of energy, like veins of light, running from my hand up my arm, across my chest, branching out through my entire body. I feel it, I whispered. Good. Now follow those threads. See where they lead. I followed the energy deeper, past the physical sensation, into something else entirely. And suddenly I was somewhere else, or maybe I was nowhere, floating in a space that existed between heartbeats, between breaths. There was power here. Ancient, vast, terrifying. It stretched out in all directions, infinite and impossible. And somewhere in that vastness, I could feel myself, small and fragile and utterly insignificant, but also connected. Part of it. Woven into it. Don't be afraid. Kestra's voice came from far away. This is your legacy. This is what you are. Fear. Yes, there was fear. How could there not be? This power was so much bigger than me, so much older. What if I couldn't control it? What if it controlled me instead? Breathe, another voice said, the general. Just breathe. You're not trying to master it tonight. You're just learning to recognize it. I focused on his voice, using it as an anchor to pull myself back. Slowly, carefully, I retreated from that vast space of power, following the threads back to my body, to the chamber, to the here and now. When I opened my eyes, I was sweating, trembling, but also exhilarated. What was that? I asked. The source, Kestra said. The well from which all magic flows. Everyone who bears the mark can sense it, but few can truly access it. What you just did, most people take months to achieve that level of connection. The general was watching me with that same intense expression from before. Your bloodline is stronger than we thought. Over the following days, the training continued in secret. During the day, I maintained my duties as a servant, playing my role perfectly while my mind buzzed with everything I was learning at night. The other warriors taught me different aspects of magic. The scarred man, called Torvin, showed me how to sense other marked individuals, how to recognize the subtle energy signature each person carried. A younger warrior named Darius taught me basic defensive techniques, how to shield my mind from intrusion, how to mask my power when necessary. But it was Kestra who taught me the most important lesson. Magic isn't just power, she said during one session. It's responsibility. Every time you draw from the source, you're making a choice. What you do with that power, how you use it, who you help or harm, that defines you more than the power itself ever could. I thought about that a lot, about the choices I'd made in my life, and the choices that had been made for me, about what it meant to have power, real power, for the first time. And I thought about the king, about his war on magic, about the weapon he was supposedly developing. Tell me about him, I said to the general one night. The king. How did all this start? We were alone in the training chamber, the others having left for their duties. He was sitting on a stone bench, sharpening a blade, and for a moment I thought he wouldn't answer. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with old pain. 50 years ago, the kingdom was different. Magic and those who wielded it were respected, even revered. The sovereign mages advised the regional lords, helped with harvests, protected the people from threats both natural and supernatural. It was a time of relative peace and prosperity. He paused, testing the blade's edge. Then came the plague, a sickness that swept through the land, killing thousands. The people blamed the mages, said their magic had caused it or that they weren't doing enough to stop it. The king, the current king's father, saw an opportunity. He turned the people's fear into hatred, their grief into rage. And he used that to consolidate his power. By eliminating the mages, I said quietly. By slaughtering them, he corrected, his voice hard. Men, women, children. Anyone who showed even a hint of magical ability. It was systematic, thorough, and brutal. Within 5 years, the old order was gone. The king ruled absolutely, and magic became the greatest crime in the kingdom. And you? I asked. What did you survive? He looked at me, then really looked at me, and I saw the weight of decades in his eyes. I hid. Like you, I became invisible. I rose through the military ranks, proved my loyalty to the king 1,000 times over, all while keeping my mark hidden. And I waited for a time when I could strike back. For others like me who survived. For a chance to make things right. And now that chance is here? Maybe, he said. Or maybe we're all about to die trying. The honesty was brutal, but I appreciated it. No false promises, no guarantees. Just the truth, raw and unfiltered. Why did you become a general? I asked. Why stay close to the very man who would kill you if he knew what you were? A bitter smile crossed his face. Keep your enemies close, as they say. But also, someone needed to protect the marked who were still out there. In my position, I could warn them when the king's hunters got too close. I could redirect suspicion. I could save lives, even if I couldn't save everyone. I understood then. He'd sacrificed his own freedom, his own safety, to protect others. For 50 years, he lived a lie, played a role, all to preserve the small hope that one day, things might change. That's why you're helping me, I realized. Not because of some prophecy or grand plan. Because you don't want me to have to hide like you did. Partly, he admitted. But also because you're genuinely powerful. More powerful than any marked I've encountered in decades. If there's anyone who can stand against what's coming, it might be you. The weight of that expectation should have terrified me. And it did. But it also lit something inside me, a determination I didn't know I had. I wouldn't hide. I wouldn't live in fear. I would learn to use this power, and I would use it to protect people like me, like us. Teach me, I said. Everything you know. I want to be ready. And so the real training began. It was brutal, exhausting, and sometimes painful. Magic I learned how to cost. Using it drained you, physically and mentally. The more power you drew from the source, the more of yourself you had to give in return. But I was learning. Growing stronger, more confident, until the night everything went wrong. We were in the middle of a session, me practicing a shielding technique, while Kestra threw small bursts of energy at me to test my defenses. The general and Torvin watched from the sides, offering corrections and advice. And then the door burst open. A young warrior I didn't recognize stumbled in, bleeding from a wound in his side. "They know," he gasped. "The king's hunters. They're coming." The temperature in the room dropped. "How long?" the general demanded. "Already moving."
"Minutes."
"Maybe less." Someone talked. "They know about the Eastern Tower, about the training, about—" His eyes found me. About her. And just like that, the fragile safety we'd built shattered. "We need to get her out," Kestra said, moving toward me. But the general was shaking his head. "Too late. If they're already here, they'll have the exits covered. We'd never make it." "Then we fight," Torvin said, drawing his sword. "And condemn everyone in this fortress?" The general shot back. "If we fight here, if we reveal ourselves, the king will burn this entire place to the ground looking for other marked. Everyone we've protected, everyone who's hidden successfully, they'll all die." I could hear footsteps now, dozens of them, echoing through the corridors above us. Getting closer. My heart was racing, my mind spinning. This was it. This was how it ended. Caught before I'd barely begun to understand what I was. And then I felt it. The power inside me, responding to my fear, my desperation. It surged up, stronger than ever before, demanding to be used. "I can hide us," I heard myself say. Everyone turned to look at me. "What?" the general asked. "The power, it's showing me something. A way to make us invisible. Not physically, but magically. To hide our signatures so they can't sense us." "That's advanced magic," Kestra said. "You've only been training for a few days. You couldn't possibly." "I can feel it," I insisted. "It's like the power wants to protect us. Like it knows what to do." The footsteps were closer now. Voices shouting orders. The general made a decision. "Do it," he said.
"Now."
I closed my eyes, reaching for that vast reservoir of power I'd touched before. But this time, I didn't just observe it. I pulled from it, drawing energy up through those threads of light, channeling it through my body and out into the room. It hurt.
Gods, it hurt.
Like my veins were on fire, like my bones were being restructured from the inside out. But I held on, focusing on my intention. Hide us. Protect us. Make us invisible to those who would harm us. The power flowed out, creating a bubble around the chamber, a ward that would mask our presence from any magical detection. And then the door above us opened, and I heard the hunters enter the tower. I could sense them through the ward, feel their magic probing, searching. But my shield held. It bent around their perception, showing them nothing, suggesting there was nothing here worth finding. Seconds stretched into minutes. I held the ward in place, sweat pouring down my face, my body shaking with the effort. And then, finally, they left. The moment I felt them retreat, I let go of the power and collapsed. Strong arms caught me before I hit the ground. The general, his face close to mine, his eyes wide with something that looked like awe. "You did it," he said. "You actually did it." I tried to respond, but the darkness was already pulling me under. The last thing I heard before I lost consciousness was Kestra's voice. "She's stronger than we thought. Much stronger." And somewhere in the fading light of my awareness, I felt that mark on my hand pulse with satisfaction, as if it had been waiting all my life for me to finally use it. This was just the beginning, I realized as the darkness claimed me. The real story was just starting, and I had no idea if I was ready for what came next. But ready or not, it was coming.